The shadow serpent glided silently through the vast emptiness of disputed space, its sleek, predatory form nearly invisible against the backdrop of the Maelstrom Nebula. Captain Kalen stood on the bridge, his tall, lithe Xylar frame silhouetted against the vast panoramic viewport. His species was known throughout the galaxy for their efficiency and ruthlessness, traits that had served him well in his long career as a mercenary and smuggler. "Status report," Kalen demanded, his voice carrying the characteristic metallic undertone of the Xylar. Mirak, his sensor officer, a small, six-limbed Vexillian with compound eyes that shifted constantly, chittered before responding. "All systems nominal, Captain. Stealth systems at maximum efficiency. No patrol vessels detected within scanning range." Kayla nodded, satisfied. The Shadow Serpent's cloaking technology was among the finest money could buy, or rather, that money could steal. Their current cargo, secure in the specially shielded hold below, would fetch enough on the black market to keep his crew living comfortably for several cycles. The Xylar allowed himself a rare moment of satisfaction. His crew was handpicked, each member a specialist in their field, and all of them killers with impressive tallies to their names. Grak, the hulking Vraxian warrior who served as security chief, had single-handedly slaughtered an entire colonial outpost. Lyra, their pilot, had the highest confirmed kill count in 3 sectors from her time as an assassin before Kalen had recruited her. Even Mirak, the unassuming sensor officer, had been responsible for navigation failures that had sent 17 ships into stellar cores. They were predators all, and they moved through the galaxy like the apex hunters they were. "Captain," Mirak's voice broke through Kalen's reverie, higher pitched than normal. "Long-range sensors have detected an unidentified vessel entering the sector." Kalen waved a dismissive hand. "Probably just a lost merchant or a scout ship. Direction? It appears to be coming from Earth sector, sir." A momentary silence fell over the bridge. Earth, that insignificant blue world that had somehow produced one of the most baffling species in the galaxy. "Trajectory?" Kalen asked, his tone now holding a touch of interest. "Direct course toward the Maelstrom Nebula. Toward our position, though I doubt they could have detected us." Kalen snorted. "Of course they haven't. Maintain stealth protocols, but keep tracking them. Probably just some science vessel or trader cutting through to save time." He turned away, considering the matter closed. For the next several hours, the Shadow Serpent continued its silent drift through the nebula's outer reaches. The unidentified vessel maintained its direct course, neither slowing nor changing direction. It was odd behavior, but nothing that warranted serious concern. Until the communications officer, Traz, a blue-scaled reptilian with a nervous temperament, spoke up. "Captain, I'm picking up scattered transmissions from outposts in the adjacent sectors. Reports of unusual activity. Several patrol vessels have gone silent in the past rotation." Kalen turned his attention to the main display, where the unidentified ship's trajectory was plotted in a clean, unwavering line. "How far out is our mystery visitor now?" "Approximately 4 light minutes, Captain," Mirak reported. "I've been attempting detailed scans, but..." The sensor officer trailed off, compound eyes blinking in apparent confusion. "But what?" Kalen snapped. "The data is inconsistent. The ship doesn't match any known configuration in our database. Its energy signature is unusual, fluctuating in patterns I've never seen before. And its hull composition..." Mirak paused again. "I can't get accurate readings. It's as if the scanning beams are being absorbed and redirected somehow." Grak, who had been silently monitoring from his security station, spoke in his deep, rumbling voice. "I've heard stories about Earth vessels. Deathworlders build strange ships." Kalen shot the security chief a contemptuous look. "Spare me your superstitious nonsense, Grak. They're just another species, regardless of what planet spawned them." "With respect, Captain," Grak persisted, his massive frame tensing, "the stories are consistent. Deathworlders don't think like normal beings. They evolved on a world that tried to kill them at every turn. Makes them unpredictable. They bleed like anything else," Kalen said dismissively. Prepare weapon systems, just as a precaution. But maintain stealth. There's no reason to believe they're any threat to us. The unidentified vessel continued its approach, maintaining the same unwavering course. The Shadow Serpent's crew went about their duties with practiced efficiency, though a subtle tension had begun to permeate the bridge. Suddenly, Mirak Station erupted in a cascade of alerts. "Captain, the vessel has abruptly accelerated. It's coming directly toward our position." "Impossible," Kalen hissed. "Our stealth systems. They know exactly where we are," Mirak chittered in panic. "Collision alert. They'll intercept in less than 2 minutes." The main view screen shifted to show the approaching vessel. It was unlike anything Kalen had ever seen. Not particularly large, but with an unconventional design that seemed to defy standard shipbuilding logic. Instead of the sleek, aerodynamic forms preferred by most spacefaring races, this vessel had a practical, almost brutal functionality to its appearance. Various protrusions that might have been sensors or weapons dotted its hull in seemingly random patterns. "Evasive maneuvers," Kalen ordered, his calm voice belying the sudden coldness in his chest. "Take us deeper into the nebula." Now, Lyra's fingers danced across her console, and the Shadow Serpent banked sharply, accelerating into the dense, swirling clouds of the Maelstrom Nebula. The ship had been specifically upgraded to navigate the treacherous environment. Electromagnetic disturbances, radiation pockets, and unpredictable gravitational eddies made the nebula a natural fortress that few vessels dared to enter. "They're still following," Mirak reported, the pitch of his voice rising further. Maintaining pursuit with no apparent difficulty. Kalen moved to Lyra's station, watching over the pilot's shoulder as she navigated the increasingly hazardous terrain. "The Bremhart current is 2 minutes ahead. Take us through. The radiation should blind their sensors long enough for us to slip away." The Shadow Serpent plunged deeper into the nebula, the visibility outside the viewports reducing to swirling masses of colorful gases and dust. Navigation became increasingly dependent on the ship's sophisticated sensor suite, which had been calibrated specifically for these conditions. "They're still on us," Mirak reported, incredulity evident in his voice. They're matching our course corrections with minimal delay. It's as if they're anticipating our movements." Kalen's face hardened. This was becoming concerning. "Deploy sensor decoys. Full spread." A series of small drones launched from the Shadow Serpent, each broadcasting a replica of the ship's energy signature in different directions. It was an expensive tactic, but one that had saved them more than once when dealing with persistent pursuers. "Decoys deployed and active," reported Traz. "All functioning at optimal parameters." "The pursuing vessel is not diverting," Mirak said after a tense moment. It's ignoring the decoys completely." Grak let out a low, rumbling sound that might have been a chuckle or a growl. "Told you, Captain. Deathworlders. They don't think like us." The tension on the bridge was palpable now. Kalen had never encountered a situation quite like this. Every evasion tactic in his considerable arsenal was failing against this persistent follower. "Approaching the Bremhart current," Lyra announced, her voice steady despite the situation. "Preparing shield modulation for radiation protection." "Take us through," Kalen ordered. "Full power to engines once we're inside. We'll be flying blind for approximately 40 seconds, but so will they." The Shadow Serpent shuddered as it entered the current, a river of highly charged particles flowing through the nebula like a cosmic rapids. The view screen automatically dimmed to protect the crew from the brilliant flashes of light as radiation particles impacted the shields. "Radiation levels at maximum safe threshold," reported Traz. "Shields holding. 20 seconds until we exit the current," Lyra announced. "Plotting exit vector now." Kalen allowed himself a small measure of hope. The Bremhart current was notoriously difficult to navigate. Even with their specialized equipment, they were essentially flying on pre-calculated trajectories and instinct. "We're clearing the current," Lyra reported. "Sensors coming back online in 3, 2, 1. Status of pursuit vessel." Kalen demanded immediately. Mirak's response was delayed by several seconds as the sensor officer stared at his readings in apparent disbelief. They're right behind us, Captain. They navigated the current, with no deviation from their pursuit course. That should be impossible without our specialized systems. Before Kalen could respond, Traz straightened at his station. Captain, we're receiving a transmission. It's from the pursuing vessel. Kalen hesitated only briefly. Put it through. Audio only. A voice filled the bridge, calm, measured, and speaking perfect galactic standard with an accent Kalen couldn't quite place. Unidentified vessel. This is the Earth Survey Ship Odyssey. Please reduce speed and identify yourselves. We've detected anomalous energy signatures emanating from your cargo hold that may present a hazard to this region of space. The bridge crew exchanged glances. The voice didn't sound threatening. If anything, it sounded almost professionally cordial. Ignore it, Kalen ordered. Prepare aft weapons. Target their propulsion systems. Let's see if we can slow them down. Targeting systems engaged. Grak rumbled, his massive fingers surprisingly dexterous on the weapons console. Plasma cannons charged and ready. Fire, Kalen ordered. Brilliant streams of superheated plasma erupted from the Shadow Serpent's aft batteries, arcing through the nebulous gases toward the pursuing Earth vessel. It was a warning shot designed to force them to break off pursuit rather than cause serious damage. Kalen wasn't eager to add attacking an Earth vessel to the list of bounties on his head. What happened next sent a chill through even Kalen's composed exterior. The plasma bolts, which should have at least forced the Odyssey to execute evasive maneuvers, instead seemed to bend around the ship, dispersing harmlessly into the surrounding nebula. The human vessel didn't alter its course in the slightest. Direct hits, Grak reported, confusion evident in his gravelly voice. But no damage registered. Some kind of deflection technology I've never seen before. They're accelerating again, Mirak chittered anxiously. Closing distance rapidly. All power to engines, Kalen ordered. Take us to the Charybdis formation. If they want to play chase, let's see how they handle the gravitational anomalies. The Charybdis formation was among the most dangerous regions within the already hazardous Maelstrom Nebula, a cluster of collapsed protostars whose gravitational fields interacted in chaotic and unpredictable ways. Even the Shadow Serpent, with all its specialized equipment, would be at severe risk navigating through it. Captain, Lyra said, a note of rare concern in her voice. The Charybdis formation is extremely unstable. Our last navigational data is 3 standard months old. Conditions may have changed significantly since then. That's precisely the point, Kalen replied coldly. Our pursuers won't have any navigational data at all. The Shadow Serpent adjusted course, diving toward the heart of the nebula where the Charybdis formation lurked like a cosmic death trap. The ship's sensors were already detecting the gravitational distortions ahead, rippling waves in the fabric of space that could tear apart a vessel in seconds if navigated incorrectly. Entering the formation's outer boundary, Lyra announced. Reducing speed to maneuvering thrusters only. Gravitational mapping in progress. The Shadow Serpent slowed dramatically, now moving with agonizing caution through the invisible maze of gravitational eddies and shears. Kalen watched the sensor displays with intense focus, noting the safe passages through the chaos that the ship's computers were identifying in real time. Status of pursuit? He asked, not taking his eyes from the navigational display. There was a brief silence before Mirak responded. They've followed us in, Captain. They've also reduced speed, maintaining the same distance behind us. Kalen cursed under his breath. These humans were either incredibly skilled or suicidally reckless. For nearly 20 minutes, the deadly game of cat and mouse continued through the Charybdis formation. The Shadow Serpent navigated the treacherous region with all the skill its specialized systems and experienced crew could muster, executing complex maneuvers that should have been impossible for any vessel not specifically designed for such environments. And yet, the Earth's ship followed. Not just followed, but mirrored their movements with a precision that seemed almost preternatural. "This isn't possible," Lyra muttered, her typically impassive demeanor cracking under the strain. "They can't be calculating these gravitational patterns in real time without the specialized sensors we have." "They're not calculating them," Grak rumbled. "They're reading our movements and following our exact path. Deathworlders are adaptable. It's what makes them dangerous." Kalen was about to rebuke the security chief again when Mirak let out a high-pitched sound of alarm. "Captain, the gravitational topology ahead is shifting. A new shear plane is forming directly in our plotted path." "Recalculate," Kalen ordered sharply. "No time," Lyra responded, her hands already moving across her controls. "Executing emergency evasion pattern." The Shadow Serpent lurched violently as its maneuvering thrusters fired at maximum output, narrowly avoiding the invisible wall of differential gravity that would have sheared the ship in half. The evasive maneuver, while successful, had forced them into an even more complex region of the formation. "Gravitational density increasing," Mirak reported, his voice tight with stress. "Multiple overlapping fields detected. Navigation becoming exponentially more difficult." Kalen made a swift decision. "Reverse course. Take us back the way we came. At least we know that path was stable." "The humans," Grak began. "Will be facing the same conditions we are." Kalen cut him off. "Execute the order." The Shadow Serpent began its careful retreat, retracing its path through the gravitational minefield. For several tense minutes, it seemed the plan might work. The ship carefully navigated back through the areas it had already mapped, steadily making progress toward the relative safety of the nebula proper. Then Mirak's console lit up again. "Captain, the Earth vessel. It's performing some kind of maneuver I've never seen before. They're not following our retreat path." "On screen," Kalen ordered. The main view screen shifted to show the Odyssey. What they witnessed defied explanation. Instead of carefully navigating the gravitational distortions, as the Shadow Serpent was forced to do, the Earth vessel appeared to be riding them. There was no other way to describe it. The ship moved in short, precise bursts, using the very gravitational shears that threatened to destroy it to instead propel itself forward, sliding along the interfaces between different gravitational fields like a stone skipping across water. "That's not possible," Lyra whispered. "That level of precision would require—" She never finished the thought. With a final graceful maneuver that seemed to bend physics itself, the Odyssey suddenly appeared directly alongside the Shadow Serpent, matching their velocity perfectly. "They're alongside us," Grak shouted, already targeting weapons. Distance 50 meters and holding steady. Before Kalen could issue an order, a brilliant beam of energy lanced out from the Odyssey. But instead of impacting the Shadow Serpent's hull or shields, it seemed to envelop the entire ship in a shimmering field of blue-white energy. The effect was immediate. Every system on the Shadow Serpent simultaneously shut down. Propulsion, weapons, shields, sensors, all went dark in an instant. Only life support and minimal emergency lighting remained functional. "What just happened?" Kalen demanded, his voice carrying an edge of genuine fear for the first time. "Status report." Traz ran his scaled hands frantically over his dead console. "All primary systems are non-responsive, Captain. Whatever they hit us with, it wasn't designed to destroy. It was designed to disable. Completely and precisely." "Can we restore systems?" Kalen asked. "Unknown," Traz replied. "This isn't like any weapon I've encountered before. There's no physical damage to our systems. They're just not working." The Shadow Serpent drifted helplessly in the chaotic gravitational tides of the Charybdis Formation. Only the Odyssey's presence alongside them, somehow holding both ships stable against the invisible forces threatening to tear them apart, prevented their immediate destruction. "They're contacting us again," Traz reported, indicating the emergency communication system that was still operational. "Put it through," Kalen ordered, his voice tight. The same calm voice from before filled the bridge once more. "Shadow Serpent. Yes, we know who you are. We apologize for the necessity of disabling your vessel. The technology in your cargo hold is emitting increasingly dangerous levels of chronospatial radiation. We need to secure it immediately for the safety of this entire region. We are preparing to board your vessel. We mean no harm to your crew. Kalen looked around at his bridge crew, seeing his own shock and confusion mirrored in their expressions. Even Grak, normally impassive, appeared disturbed. They were veteran killers, every one of them with decades of combat experience in the most dangerous regions of the galaxy. Yet somehow, they had been rendered completely helpless by a vessel that hadn't fired a single destructive shot. "Prepare for boarding defense," Kalen ordered, his voice regaining some of its authority. "All crew to defensive positions. Arm yourselves with personal weapons." As the bridge crew hurried to comply, Grak approached Kalen. "Captain, I strongly advise against resistance. These are Deathworlders. If they wanted us dead, we would be already. I didn't survive this long by surrendering to boarders," Kalen snapped. "Take your position, Grak." The massive security chief hesitated, then nodded grimly. "As you wish, Captain. But remember, they evolved on a planet that tried to kill them with every breath they took. They don't fight like we do." Kalen and his crew took up defensive positions at strategic points throughout the ship. The docking mechanisms had also been disabled by whatever energy field had enveloped the Shadow Serpent, but Kalen had no doubt the humans would find a way aboard regardless. He was right. Less than 10 minutes later, the precise sound of molecular cutting tools came from the main airlock. The humans were cutting their way in with surgical precision, carefully avoiding damage to any critical ship systems in the process. Kalen positioned himself with a clear line of fire to the airlock, a high-powered pulse rifle braced against his shoulder. Grak stood nearby, his massive frame tense, but his expression strangely resigned. Several other crew members were positioned with overlapping fields of fire, creating a killing zone that should have been impossible to survive. The airlock door fell inward with a surprisingly gentle thud. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, defying all expectations, just 3 figures stepped through the opening. They were wearing what appeared to be lightweight environmental suits, not the heavy combat armor Kalen had expected. The suits themselves looked unremarkable except for their apparent flexibility and the small, unobtrusive devices attached to various points. The humans' faces were visible behind clear visors, appearing disconcertingly normal. The lead figure, a woman of average height with close-cropped dark hair and alert eyes, held up an empty hand in what was clearly meant to be a peaceful gesture. Her other hand held what looked more like a scientific instrument than a weapon. "Hello," she said, her voice now unfiltered by communication systems. "I'm Dr. Eris Thorne, Chief Science Officer of the Odyssey. These are my colleagues, Technical Specialist Marcus Wong and Xenobiologist Dr. Eliana Sandoval. We apologize for the inconvenience, but we really do need to access your cargo hold immediately." Kalen kept his weapon trained on the woman's head. "One more step and we open fire." Dr. Thorne seemed entirely unconcerned by the numerous weapons pointed at her. "Captain Kalen, I understand your position, but I need to emphasize the urgency of our situation. The artifact you're transporting is generating extremely dangerous levels of chronospatial radiation. It's already beginning to affect the stability of this entire region. If left unchecked, it could potentially create a cascading collapse of the local space-time continuum. And I'm supposed to believe that?" Kalen asked coldly. Dr. Thorne held up the device in her hand. "This is a real-time scanner showing the radiation levels emanating from your cargo hold. The readings are increasing exponentially. You must have noticed the unusual gravitational fluctuations in this region. They're not natural. They're being exacerbated by the artifact." Before Kalen could respond, Mirak stepped forward slightly from his position. "Captain, our own sensors detected unusual energy patterns from the cargo before they went offline. It's possible they're telling the truth." Dr. Thorne nodded gratefully to the sensor officer. "We've been tracking the radiation signature for the past several days. That's how we found you, not by defeating your stealth systems. The artifact itself led us to you." Kalen hesitated. His instinct screamed that this was some kind of trick, but nothing in the human's behavior matched what he would expect from attackers or law enforcement. They were too calm, too reasonable. After a tense moment, he lowered his weapon slightly. My crew stays armed. You go to the cargo hold, do what you need to do, and leave. Any suspicious moves, and we start shooting. That's entirely acceptable, Dr. Thorne said with a nod. Thank you, Captain. Under the watchful eyes and ready weapons of Kalen's crew, the three humans made their way through the shadow serpent toward the cargo hold. They moved with purpose but without apparent fear, despite being surrounded by some of the most notorious killers in the sector. When they reached the cargo hold, Dr. Thorne immediately approached the artifact, a roughly cylindrical device of clearly ancient design, covered in symbols and patterns that defied easy categorization. It had been secured in a specialized containment unit, but according to the human scanner, this was proving insufficient to contain the radiation. Fascinating, she murmured, examining the artifact without touching it. Pre-collapse technology, almost certainly. The engravings appear to be mathematical formulas rather than language. Marcus, what do you think? The technical specialist, a lean man with quick, precise movements, was already setting up several devices around the artifact. Definitely a temporal regulator of some kind. See these patterns? Classic Void Walker recursion formulas. But it's been damaged. Look at the microfractures in the outer casing. That would explain the radiation leakage, Dr. Sandoval added, adjusting some settings on what appeared to be a portable containment field generator. The internal isolation matrix must be failing. Kalen watched this exchange with growing confusion. The humans were treating one of the most valuable and dangerous artifacts in the galaxy like it was a routine scientific curiosity. They showed none of the greed or fear he would have expected. Can you fix it? He found himself asking, surprising even himself with the question. Dr. Thorne glanced up. We can stabilize it, certainly. A complete repair would require facilities we don't have access to here, but we can secure it enough to prevent any catastrophic failures. The three humans worked with remarkable efficiency, their movements synchronized as if they had performed this exact operation countless times before. They set up containment fields, adjusted parameters on their devices, and carefully monitored the radiation levels. During their work, a section of the cargo hold's ceiling supports, weakened by the strange radiation, suddenly gave way. A heavy metal strut broke free, plummeting toward one of Kalen's crew members who had been standing guard nearby. Before anyone could react, technical specialist Wong lunged forward with startling speed, shoving the crewman aside and partially deflecting the falling debris. The metal strut struck Wong's arm with a sickening impact, tearing through his environmental suit and clearly causing significant injury. Kalen expected something. Anger, perhaps. Accusations. Instead, Wong merely grimaced and stepped back, allowing Dr. Sandoval to quickly attend to his injury with a small medical device she had produced from her equipment. Marcus, that was unnecessarily risky, Dr. Thorne scolded gently as she continued working on the artifact. Calculated risk, Wong replied through gritted teeth, faster than explaining the situation. The crewman who had been saved, a typically bloodthirsty Frenchman named Zorak, stood frozen in confusion. In any other circumstances, he would have taken advantage of an enemy's injury to strike. Instead, he found himself stuttering, thank you. Wong merely nodded, already turning his attention back to the artifact despite his injury. Within 20 minutes, the humans had completed their work. The artifact was now encased in a sophisticated containment field that seemed to bend light around it in strange ways. That should hold it stable, Dr. Thorne announced, stepping back from the artifact. The radiation levels are already decreasing to safe parameters. She turned to face Kalen directly. Captain, this containment field will hold for approximately 3 standard weeks. That should give you enough time to deliver this to someone who can properly handle it. May I strongly suggest the University of Arcturus? They have a specialized division for pre-collapse technology that could dispose of it safely. Kalen stared at her. You're not taking it. Dr. Thorne shook her head. That wasn't our mission. We were tasked with preventing a potential catastrophic event in this region, which we've done. What happens to the artifact now is your decision, though I hope you'll consider my recommendation. The three humans gathered their equipment and prepared to leave. Before they did, Dr. Thorne approached Kalen once more. One more thing, Captain. Your ship's main propulsion and navigation systems should come back online in approximately 30 minutes. The disabling field we used is temporary by design. However, given the damage your vessel sustained during our pursuit, you might have difficulty clearing the Charybdis Formation safely. She held out a small data chip. These are navigational coordinates and gravitational maps we compiled during our approach. They should help you plot a safe course out. Kalen took the chip automatically, his sense of reality continuing to shift uncomfortably. This was not how enemies behaved. This was not how victors treated the defeated. As if reading his thoughts, Dr. Thorne added, "We're also leaving a communication beacon. If you encounter further issues with the artifact, or anything else you think we might be able to help with, you can use it to contact the Odyssey." She paused, then added with surprising gentleness, "We don't judge, Captain. We just try to help where we can." The humans made their way back to the airlock, leaving behind a stunned and silent crew. Kalen followed them, still unable to fully process what had happened. At the airlock, Dr. Thorne turned one last time. "Safe travels, Captain Kalen. Perhaps we'll meet again under better circumstances." With that, the three humans stepped through the airlock and were gone. Moments later, the Shadow Serpent sensors, now partially functioning again, detected the Odyssey disengaging and moving away at a casual pace, as if nothing unusual had occurred. For several minutes, no one on the bridge spoke. The silence was finally broken by Grak's rumbling voice. "Now you understand, Captain. That is why we fear the Deathworlders." Kalen turned to his security chief. "They didn't even try to capture us. They knew exactly who we were. They called us by name. They must have known about the bounties, the warrants. And yet, it's not their violence we fear," Grak said softly, surprising Kalen with his insight. "It's their perspective. They see the universe differently. They don't behave as predators should." Slowly, the Shadow Serpent systems came back online, just as Dr. Thorne had promised. Using the navigational data the humans had provided, Lyra carefully plotted a course out of the Charybdis Formation and the Maelstrom Nebula beyond. As the ship limped away into open space, the mood aboard remained subdued. The crew moved about their duties mechanically, each lost in their own thoughts. Kalen sat alone in his quarters, staring at the small communication beacon the humans had left behind. Such a simple device, yet it represented something that had fundamentally shaken his worldview. The Shadow Serpent received word through their usual channels about a brutal attack on a civilian settlement in a nearby system. The perpetrators, a rival group of pirates known for their particular cruelty, had left few survivors and were reported to be heading toward a wealthy mining colony next. Without fully understanding his own motivations, Kalen activated the communication beacon. "Odyssey, this is Shadow Serpent. We have information about an attack on civilians. Transmitting coordinates and details now." The response came almost immediately. "Received, Shadow Serpent. Thank you. We're responding." Less than a day later, news spread throughout the sector. The pirate group had been intercepted by an unidentified vessel. Their ships had been disabled with minimal casualties, their crews captured alive and handed over to sector security forces. The civilian mining colony had been warned and evacuated before any attack could take place. As Kalen listened to the reports, he felt a strange emotion he couldn't immediately identify. It took him some time to recognize it as respect, tinged with something else. Something almost like shame. The Shadow Serpent continued to drift through space, its destination uncertain. Kalen had not yet decided what to do with the artifact, whether to sell it as originally planned or follow the human suggestion to turn it over to the University of Arcturus. For the first time in decades, the certainty that had driven his life as a predator among the stars seemed less absolute. His crew watched him carefully, sensing the change. Some, like Grak, seemed to understand implicitly. Others remained confused, their worldview still adjusting to the encounter with the humans. In bars and ports throughout the galaxy, stories were already spreading, whispered accounts of the Earth vessel Odyssey and its strange crew. Tales of humans who moved through the most dangerous regions of space, not with brute force, but with an almost supernatural adaptation. Of Deathworlders who could have destroyed, but chose to preserve, who saw opportunities for connection where others saw only threats. And veteran killers, hardened by decades of violence in the cold depths of space. Listen to these stories with a new kind of fear. Not the fear of death or destruction, but the fear of confronting a fundamentally different way of existing. A way that called into question everything they had built their lives upon. Kalen understood this fear now. As the shadow serpent drifted toward an uncertain future, he realized that the true power of the Deathworlders wasn't their technology or their adaptability or even their strange, unpredictable thought patterns.